Hi boys and girls, good morning to Wednesday. It is April 15th and we're here again with math. So we've got lesson 7-8, pages 221 and 222. So you don't need your worksheet right away. I guess the poster I'm going to go over would be helpful, but we did do this in class before the buildings were closed. I know some of you were sick though, so if you need to hit replay or pause, you can, but we're just going to get into this lesson. So today our lesson is on equal shares. Equal shares. So really it's about fractions, okay? But we're calling them equal shares. So the reason we're calling them equal shares is because equal means they're the same, and shares is another word for part, okay? And often when you cut something apart, it's because you're gonna share it with someone. So if you have a pizza, it's cut into equal pieces so you can share it with your family or whoever you're eating with. If you have a candy bar and you're told to share it with a friend or a sibling, you're gonna break it into equal pieces so that you both can have an equal part or an equal share. Same with a pie, okay? We could think of lots of things we cut and share. So we're gonna talk about halves today and fourths. So we're gonna start with halves. So halves equals two equal shares, so two equal parts. So you all know that I have two kids, Hunter and Ellie, and if I tell them to share something, the rule at my house is one person breaks it into half, but then the other person gets to pick which half they eat. So that usually means the person that breaks it is going to break it as closely as they can to making sure each piece is equal, because if not, the other person's gonna probably pick the bigger piece. So halves is two equal pieces. So we can write that as a fraction, and what you do there is you have the number 1, so that's one part, and I think of this line as the words out of, and then the bottom is the whole. So how many pieces does it take to make it whole is 2. So a half is 1 out of 2 pieces. So we're going to look at the squares I have drawn here, and we are going to divide them into halves. Okay, so 2 equal parts. We only need 1 line on each square, and there's 4 different ways we can do it. Okay? So before we get started, I'm going to use words that we learned earlier this year, okay? So if you want to do this with me, you can, okay? I know we played Simon Says, so we learned some directional words, okay? So we've got horizontal, okay? So your arms are out left to right or east to west. And then we have vertical, so arms are up and down or north and south, okay? And then we have that funny word oblique, so it's like a diagonal. So it could be this way, or you could switch, and it could be an oblique this way, okay? So we're gonna use those kind of lines to break our shapes into halves. So here we go, looking at a square, we could come down the middle with a vertical line. Okay, so that would create 2 equal shares, or 2 equal parts. So this piece is 1 out of 2 pieces, and this piece is 1 out of 2 pieces. So together, those 2 pieces make it a whole, okay? So we can do that again, and now we're gonna do a horizontal line, left to right, to create halves, 2 equal pieces. If you want to write the fraction in there, you can. That's not something first graders have to do yet, but I know how smart you guys are, so go ahead and put it in there if you want. Okay, you guessed it, we're gonna do oblique. So I'm gonna go from the left corner to the bottom right. And again, that creates halves, which is 2 equal shares or 2 equal parts. And if we want that fraction, 1 out of 2, we can write that in each piece. And then we're just going to switch the oblique, and we're going to start from the top right and come to the bottom left. And again, you've got 2 equal pieces, and I'm writing that fraction in there. Okay, so there's 4 ways you can divide a square into halves. Let's try it with a circle now. Okay, so I've got 4 orange circles here. We're going to use the same lines. Okay, and we can even follow the same pattern. So I can do a vertical line. You guessed it. Write my fraction in here. 1 out of 2 equals half. I could do a horizontal line. Again, putting that fraction in there because we're super smart. And then we can go back to those oblique lines. And for the last one, we can do the oblique one. Whoop, that one wasn't quite as half. Trying to make it bigger. And I've got my fraction in there, 1 out of 2. Okay, so 1 piece or 1 part out of 2. So 2 would make it whole. Okay, you guessed it. We're moving on to the rectangle. All right, so here we go. I bet you guys are ahead of me. Well, we're just following along. But if you want to draw these shapes on a piece of scrap paper, if you have like a whiteboard and a dry erase marker, go for it. That'd be awesome. Okay? If not, just follow along. All right, so here we go. Horizontal in the middle. And we can write our fraction. 1 out of 2. Oh, did I call that horizontal? I meant vertical. Did you catch me? I bet you did. This one is horizontal. And our fraction, 1 out of 2 for 1/2. And we can go oblique and write our fraction in each part. And we can do the other oblique and write our fraction in each part. Okay, I'm going to show you something that I don't want you to do, okay? So sometimes I know our brains just think so fast, and you know, this might come easy to some of you, and we start to rush. Remember, we do that sometimes, and Mrs. Gant says, do it nice or do it twice. Yeah. So here's what I do not want you to do, okay? So look at this rectangle I drew here. What if I do this? I drew a vertical line and I made 2 pieces. Let's see if you can see that real close. Okay? Are they the same size? Are they equal? No, Mrs. Gant, they're not equal. This does not show halves. They are not equal. They are not the same. Someone is getting a small piece and someone is getting a big piece. Okay? So we don't want to rush and mess that up. Okay? Because halves, when we do this, that's why they're called equal. Equal, equal. They have to be the same. Okay? So don't do this. This is a no-no. No, no, no. All right. So that's halves. We're going to move on to fourths. Okay, so that means we're going to break a shape into 4 parts. So if you and 3 other friends, 1, 2, 3, you were going to break something apart, you would each want an equal piece. Okay, so that's called fourths, 4 equal parts. So again, we're going to start with our square. And I've got 4 different ways we can do this, okay? So we are going to draw a vertical line, and we only have halves. So we've got to split this up again, divide this again. So now I'm going to draw my horizontal line, and you can count 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 equal pieces. That is fourths. And then over here I wrote our fraction. 1 part out of 4 pieces that make it a whole. Okay, 1/4. So each piece would be 1/4. And I could write that fraction. Okay? The next thing I could do is I could make 3 vertical lines to make, so 1, 2, 3, and that creates 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. So this square is divided equally into fourths, okay? And I could write each fraction in there, okay? My marker's really big and that space is really small, so I'm gonna let that one go. All right, now I could do 3 horizontal lines. So from left to right, 1, 2, 3. And if you count with me, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 equal parts, and each one of those is 1 out of 4 pieces. Okay? And then the last way I can do this is to make 2 oblique lines, which makes it look like an X. And it looks like I have 4 triangles. Okay? So now you've got 4 different ways you could divide a square into fourths. All right, we're gonna move on to the circle. Okay, so we can start with a vertical line and then a horizontal line. So it looks like a T. And each part, you guessed it, is 1 out of 4, or 1/4. All right. And then the other way to do that is to use your oblique lines to make an X. And I bet you just said that looks like a railroad sign. And you are correct, it does look like a railroad sign. Okay, so again, 4 equal parts of that circle. All right, last one is our rectangle. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna start with a vertical line, create halves, and then divide it again with a horizontal line. Okay, so each part is 1 out of 4 pieces. The 4 pieces make it a whole. All right, next we can do, what do we do here? 3 vertical lines. So 1, 2, 3. That creates 1, 2, 3, 4 equal pieces. And then you guessed it, we're gonna do 4 horizontal lines. No, I'm sorry, 3 horizontal lines to create 4 equal pieces. Okay, you gotta be careful to draw those as straight as you can so each piece looks about 1/4. I didn't do my best there, it doesn't look like. If you want to cut out shapes out of paper and then fold them, you can fold them, and then when you open them back up, you'll see these lines you created, okay? So if that's something you wanna do in your spare time, you can. This should help you complete your pages for today. Also on your pages, I'm not sure, but it might ask you to shade or color 1/2 or 1/4. So let's try that together. Okay, because I know it's gonna ask you, maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow. Okay, so let's look at this square. Okay, we have halves, and we already drew a line to show halves. So if they asked you to color in 1/2, that means you're gonna color in 1 piece. So I would just color in 1 piece. Okay? And on your paper, it won't ask you to write this fraction 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 4, but if you want to, you can, okay? So then when you get down to fourths, if it says to color 1/4 of the square, you first divide it into fourths like we did here, and then you just color one of those pieces because it says color 1/4. So you could shade that in with your pencil or get a crayon or marker if you want. All right, so you've got pages 221 and 222 to do, and I know you're gonna do awesome, and I hope you have a good day. Bye guys, I miss you.